welcome to OCD Real Talk. Once again, we have the gang over here. I think Gemma and Alexander are maybe meeting for the first time, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, so new hangout, and maybe Hardy and Alexander as well.
Yeah.
But I
Okay.
were watching your videos, guys, so it was interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So today we had a request to talk about real event false memory OCD and how to accept your past mistakes, because usually the conception is that, oh, because we have done a mistake, something was real, therefore how can you accept it and how can you forget it or move on or overcome it. So I thought it would be a good topic to bring up. I think we have all had our fair share of maybe not real event OCD, but perhaps we have had our fair share of mistakes and things we've done in the past that weren't that great, and how we were able to learn from those and move on, and how we forgave ourselves as well, because that's another thing. How can I forgive myself for making that mistake or hurting someone's feelings and stuff like that? Sam, I would say let's begin with you, because you had real event false memory primarily. So what was that experience like for you? Were there specific events or situations from the past that you kept obsessing over?
Yeah, so I was just consumed with guilt 24/7. And this was from quite a young age as well. Just latched onto one event in the past, constantly replaying it, analysing it, trying to find the key, trying to find the solution for it. And then I remember OCD constantly moving the goalposts. So you feel like you're getting somewhere by replaying the event, and then boom, something else. How old were you? Different angle. Did this happen? Is it just OCD telling you this? So from a young age, I had that just on a constant loop. And then I would then go into the confession. So as I got older, I started confessing everything just to get off my chest, just trying to get a relief from the guilt. And then OCD would be scanning for all different events in the past, false memories, manipulating it, twisting it, just constantly searching for something to latch to. And then, like I said, that led me down the confession loop, the constant seeking reassurance, and just being where nothing else mattered in life because it's one thing in the past, or you're undeserving of everything, or you should be punished forever because it is one thing in the past. I was consumed with that for many, many years. So yeah, that is mainly my experience with it, and that was my main predominant theme.
And was that like, I mean, would you say that, for example, if somebody, let's say, complimented you, let's say somebody said that, oh, Sam is such a great, nice guy to hang out with, or something like that, like, would you in your mind think, oh my God, but like they don't actually know this one thing about me?
All the time asking if only they knew, and then just stuck with the guilt again. So I was undeserving of everything. I felt like I should be punished for every second, or couldn't be let off the hook at all, just because this one thing in the past, or something that a false memory in the past. That was it. My life in the future was done, just because of this past event.
And was it also connected to like what other people involved in that situation might be thinking, and what impression they have walked away of you in that moment?
What's that? Sorry, what someone else might think of you, or
was it linked to like what other people might have thought of you as well from that situation?
Well, yeah, social rejection, fear of going to prison, things like that, linking in with POCD, harm OCD, hit and run OCD. I remember being quite stuck with, like cheating OCD. So on a night out, for example, did you speak to this girl this way? Did you look at them that way? That constant analysing, ruminating all the time. So yeah, just on how would they react if they knew. So when you say about compliments, then it was just I was really hard on myself just because of this thing in the past all the time.
Yeah. Alexander, like, so with the different themes that you had over the course of your journey, like, where do you think that was there a particular event or something in the past that you would at times look back on or try to analyze and be like, what does this mean about me? how can I ever forget this or move on from, like, what was that struggle like for you? And also, guys, by the way, just want to say, like, whoever wants to just add on into the conversation, you can. Like, it doesn't have to come back to me. Like, you can all just, like, it's a free flowing, like, conversation over here. Go ahead, Alexander.
Yeah, for me, a real event was maybe the lowest part of my journey, when I had little knowledge about OCD and I started suffering with not a real event. I'm sorry, false memory. When I started suffering with OCD, and I did compulsion after compulsion to prove myself that I am not that kind of a person, and actually I did it, and I was very happy. But after like a couple of hours, false memory, it was like boom, and yeah, it's I remember like nearly a month I was going with this false memory, trying to analyze, did it happen or did it not? And even when I found OCD recovery and realized that it's not helpful and it might be a false memory, you know how OCD operates. It was like a link from, okay, but maybe it's false memory, but there is some mistakes that I actually did. I remember it, that it proves that my real event is real, and that's why my team is real, you know? So it was like constant rumination and chronic guilt and anxiety. And it's like the perspective that if it will be with me, if I remember it, or if I not solve it, then my life is actually ruined, and I won't be able to live like this.
And I think it's just immensely crazy as well. Like, I mean, before discovering the concept of unconditional acceptance as well, I think, I mean, if we keep that concept, like, if we keep those words even on the side, even if you just look at it from like a regular human perspective, it's just so immensely crazy how we're just zoomed into this one little thing about us, and no matter how much somebody compliments us, no matter how much somebody says something nice about us, like, we still feel completely shit because we only see that one single thing.
You know what's crazy too, Momin, is I can't actually imagine a life without unconditional acceptance. Like, I can't picture a life without that as my principle of life. Like, when I go out to places or I'm at a bar and I hear people talk, it's really sad because I want to help them, but that we're so locked in conditional acceptance as a society. But I think it is important to cover how accepting mistakes has helped my life through my anger, because that's where it kind of went with me. So, like, Momin's been the brunt end of the stick, unfortunately, numerous times. Rob has been the brunt end of the stick, and my wife was the major one. I mean, she was the closest to me. I just scream at her all the time. So I had to remind myself that, as all of us know, that there's 3 levels usually to a fear. There's a core fear, then we have a secondary suffering, and then we have berating ourselves from handling our suffering incorrectly. So I would yell at myself all day long, like, why are you so angry? Why are you so angry? Stop being angry. And it was just like mini theme. And I had to accept myself. And because, you know, when you're around people, you know how it goes, right? Oh, I can't believe you treated your wife like that. How could you yell at your wife? You're such a bad person. And like my mom, like, and so I love my mom, but like, oh my gosh, she should leave you. Like, you really treat her meanly. So then it would go around in circles. And I had to realize that unconditional self-acceptance is for one person only, and it's for myself. I think this is the hardest thing. Jem and I have talked about this before. Unconditional acceptance is for the person that's developing it. It's not for anyone else, because you can't change anyone else. And like Sam, you weren't going to ever be able to convince your fiance or your family about why they should accept you. Harley, you couldn't do that. Alexander, you could, especially you, Alexander, living in a country where OCD knowledge is 0. You know, at least we live in a place where there's some knowledge. But yeah, no, I think it's important to cover, like you said, Momin. It goes
like, again,
I think yourself
like,
forever. You're gonna have to.
Even before I discovered unconditional acceptance, I think when I at times looked at some of my most gruesomely embarrassing and shameful moments from the past. And like there are some that I mean, it's just I can't even say that over here. There's some things that were just so incredibly embarrassing for me. I feel like, I mean that, but that's what I also went with. Even like again, before I discovered I had OCD, before I went into recovery, any of those things, it was just like, okay, I've done these things, but how can I move on from this? How can I not see myself as just this one thing? Because it's just ridiculous. Because I'm doing so much in my life. I'm constantly trying to improve as a person as well. So something that happened literally 10 years ago, like why am I still carrying, like I just started to get tired of my own bullshit. Like because of that, I was like, why am I like just still obsessing over that one thing? And it doesn't make sense. I can only draw lessons and continue to see that I have been a human being in process constantly. Like I have learned so much, I have evolved so much. So I'm realistically, I'm way ahead from that time. I'm not that thing that happened 10 years ago. Nobody else is thinking about it. Only I am, clearly.
Yeah.
Because like nobody else brings it up on a daily basis at all.
And
the interesting, sorry.
I have actually was going to be a question for you, Gemma and Harley, because both of you have had relapses recently. Let's start with you, Harley. Well, Gemma, we'll go to you first, ladies first, because you were speaking first.
What is this confusion?
And Gemma, I want you, if you don't mind, talking about, because I do think a lot of people think that it's pretty easy to forgive yourself. Can you talk about when, like, during a relapse, how those tools seem like they just go away? Can you explain that, like the difficulties of applying that?
So before I answer that, I was just going to say, just following on from Momin's point with the false event, real memory, you know, thinking about something that happened 10 years ago, the thing I always found really interesting with my specific false memory, real event is these are things that would have happened and I had gone years and years and years without even thinking about them. And then when they came in, it's like, how did I go this many years having, like, knowing this had happened, but not feeling bad about it? Why have I only just realized how bad that was and how awful a person I am? Like, how have I just lived a normal life and then suddenly realized how bad it was? So yeah, I just wanted to mention that because I always found that quite interesting with false memory real event, is when it hasn't latched, it's like nothing happened, but as soon as it latches, it is 0 to 100. But yeah, so with the tools and the relapsing, so I think the reason I struggle so much with this particular relapse is because it was with a theme that I'd never experienced before. So I've always had the kind of guilt and shame themes, false event, real memory, harm, POCD. So always kind of things that I felt guilty and shameful about. That was kind of the main thing for me. So with the relapse, I think the reason I found it so difficult is because it went to a completely different thing. So in my mind, I was going, you know, if I'd suddenly started feeling really guilty and shameful about a previous thing that had happened, I'd go, okay, OCD, you know, we've been here before, we know this. But because it latched to something else entirely, with kind of a whole different set of sensations and things, I think that's where it kind of got me. But it's really important to kind of remember that it's all the same thing, even though it displays in so many different ways, it's all under the same umbrella.
Absolutely. And Harley, what would you say about that as well? When it came to what did you find the most difficult about applying, accepting yourself as a fallible human when it came to your particular fears?
Well, just going off of what Gemma said about the setbacks and everything.
Oh,
It felt when I had my setback, the reason why I had to focus in on trying to get over one thing. Wait, can you guys hear me still?
I can hear. We heard you for a second, and then you froze.
Okay, am I good now then?
You're good now. Yeah.
Just
okay, cool. So yeah, going off of what Gemma said, I think the reason why I had a setback was because I was doing certain exposures to try and get over one thing to do with my theme, and I think that was allowing more things that were laying dormant to rise up, and then that's what made it feel more different in a way. It was something that I hadn't really experienced, because I think it was all laying dormant, the things that I weren't focusing on. And going off Gemma said about it all comes under the same umbrella, you just got to treat it the same. And I think that's what helped me get over my setback, was just treating everything the same, bringing it for the ride, and just doing what I usually do, just with exposures, etc. But what was your question again, Nick? Sorry.
No, that was the question I wanted to ask, because I think that when I listen to other people in psychology or coaches talk about acceptance of mistakes, I think a lot of people underestimate how difficult it is to apply whether you have OCD or not, because we have a society that is so hyper-focused on, like, if you and I go somewhere, Harley, like something simple, we're at a bar and you take a chair from someone, like someone's about to sit down and you take the chair, it's so easy for it to be like, wow, man, you're an asshole. You're like,
Yeah.
you know,
so black and white.
It's so black and white.
Yeah.
That I think that I think the hardest thing about accepting mistakes for me was there wasn't anyone that needed to understand why I was accepting my mistakes. That was because we're like, I'm going to accept my mistakes to prove to other people why I'm a good person, because I'm accepting my mistakes. And that was like very difficult for me to wrap my head around, because my whole life was based around like proving my worth, showing I'm smart. And I think this is something we can all relate to, because, go ahead, Momin.
Yeah, I also really want to highlight, I think, something quick over here, because even when I'm doing calls with people and they, let's say they're latching onto like an event from the past or something like that, or they're defining themselves by one action. Yes, we break that down as to how that one action doesn't define them and how they can apply unconditional acceptance and what perspectives they can see. But the other thing that I always highlight for them is the reassurance, the certainty, the relief, the people pleasing that is also happening alongside. Can you guys hear me, by the way? Because my internet.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because then it's not just that one event that people are focusing on. It spills over into your everyday behaviors. You become a yes person. You are also constantly like apologizing. You're constantly saying thank you, please. You're constantly making sure that like no mistake is made. You are analyzing things. So I mean, it's not just then the thing that happened like 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago. It's also the present moment where you are constantly in that same cycle. So you are literally stretching that fear in perpetuity, like that fear of being a bad person and making a mistake or hurting people's feelings, that is stretched constantly over and over and over, because you are doing these behaviors and compulsions. Like I think I only started to accept myself for making mistakes when I stopped apologizing. Which is not to say that I like stopped apologizing in life altogether. I mean, it's not that I became an asshole, but it's like it wasn't like sorry for every single tiny thing. Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like I just stopped doing that. And I stopped bringing up past events from like years ago and talking about them, because I was doing that a lot. I was doing that quite a lot. I just stopped doing those things altogether. And for me, when I would meet people, it would be like, oh my God, this is an elephant in the room. This needs to be talked about. This needs to be discussed. I need to either apologize or need to know what they're thinking. Do they think of me okay? Like, do they think I'm a good person? Blah, blah, blah. When I stopped doing all that, and that is what I always tell people, because people are like, I'm not doing any compulsions. And it's like, you're most likely doing compulsions 100%, because looking for that relief, certainty, and in your daily life is like a compulsion.
Yeah.
Even if even if it's not directly related to that real event from 10 years ago, it is related to your core fear ultimately.
And that's just a lack. I think that's just a lack of education with OCD in general. I mean, because people are like, oh, these are the big compulsions, but people don't understand. It's like a book. Chapter 2 of the book is called Reassurance Seeking, and then when you open up that chapter, there's 50 pages of like your tone, how frequent, who are you asking? Like, there's so many different layers to reassurance, to where, I mean, you guys probably don't see it how Momin and I do. Momin's very good at this. I actually struggle with this. It would not be uncommon for me to wake up with like 40 separate private messages of people being like, you need to help me with this. Like, this is, and to the untrained eye, it seems so genuine why they think they have to go. I had a person ask me the other day, they watch this, they're going to laugh. They were struggling so bad right now because of a withdrawal from medication. They said, and they're pretty rational, they said, I really do think I need trauma therapy. Like, I have to go into my past. And this is a person that completely understands how unhelpful that is. But in that moment, it feels so real. Sam, let me ask you a question, Sam. How long do you think it took you, and timeframes don't matter, but I want to use this for context so people understand. How long do you think it took you to really understand what accepting yourself as a fallible human even meant? Like, how long did that start to process, become a more primary perspective?
Yeah, I'd say about 18 months to 2 years. So
it's good to hear that. That's why I asked that, because I want to like hear people, because people are like, oh, you know, Momin and I hear it all the time, Sam. I have people that they do like a, you know, a package call number 2. They'll be like, you know, I just don't feel like I'm getting it yet. And I have to be patient because I remember how I was. And I have to say, like, look, it takes a while to really adopt it.
So when I first read the books, I just skimmed through them. And I wanted to skim through them, and then that's it. I've nailed down acceptance. Not only did I read them again and actually applied it thoroughly, that's when change started to happen. So, and that took a little while, and it's just every day just gradually shifting my beliefs. So it wasn't just boom, read a book, all done, sorted. That's not how it works. It was gradually breaking down my beliefs, breaking down my fears, disputing on paper, and like I said, everyday life, just gradually little shifts in life, in perspectives, and that is when unconditional acceptance started to be applied, not just to an event in the past, but to everything of life and other people.
Absolutely.
I also want to quickly draw in, because I was having a call today with someone who also said, yeah, I haven't really read the books. I've just read half of this and done a little bit of that. And I said, you have to think of it this way. Even if you read the books once, all of them just once, that's still not enough, because like remember like a favorite movie that you all have, right? And so we watch that movie once, our minds are blown by it, right? But then we remember only like 2-3 like different scenes and lines from it, and then we rewatch it, and then we watch it again and again, and then with every single watch, not only do you memorize the dialogue, because then you remember, oh, this character is going to say this and this will happen, but you also start to see more like, you know, character development. You start to notice things like, oh, look, this is the like analysis of the movie, or this is what they were trying to do, and maybe this is a like underlying meaning of this and whatnot. So
that's
you start
really
to see patterns when you rewatch it again and again and again, because that's how it really sinks in. And it's the same with the books. The books won't sink in with just one read. You have to really read them for those concepts to sink in very, very well.
Wow. And we'll go to the, so what would you say, Alexander? Because when you came in, like I said, there's no OCD awareness in your country. I'm assuming, like, there's none. How long did it take you to really make more sense of acceptance? How long did you notice that it took for you to really develop that of a perspective?
So yeah, about OCD in my country, you know, there is like a general myth about OCD, about hand washing, and like being very like, how to say it, the person who like clean everything, you know, organized, very organized.
Contamination OCD mainly.
Yeah, but especially, but it's like in the biggest towns of Ukraine. But where I'm from, like from the village, I remember how Mark once told, he told perfectly, because he is also from countryside, and he told that people from this countryside would think that I'm fucking crazy. This exactly what it would mean for me, like if people from my village would know that I have like mental disorder. So yeah, and it was very scary for me again when I started suffering from OCD, because I was thinking everyone will be thinking that I'm crazy, and they put me in mental hospital, and I won't be able ever to like live happily again. And regarding acceptance, so I think first 6 months I just was watching videos from you guys, like I remember Rob's videos, Nick's, your Momin, because there wasn't as much videos as now we have on the channel, and it helped. It gave me like general knowledge about how CD operates, but I think that when I started reading books again and working on my beliefs, I noticed progress, and it was like progress during like almost a year. I knew that I am getting better, and now relapse happened. The first my big relapse in the beginning of this winter, and I never thought that I'll go backwards, but this relapse is like great. Now I can see that it's a great stepping stone for me, because I understand that I didn't accept truly that I have OCD, and fear was my biggest driver. So now I thought that I had good understanding of acceptance of OCD before this relapse, but actually I wasn't. And now I can see that how strong fear like was in me. Like I still had it like pretty
You
strong.
know, the three of you, the funny thing is just total stroke of luck. The three of you guys all had relapses like at the same time. You, Harley, and Gemma all had relapses together. And it was like when Marley, I mean, when Gemma had her relapse, it was, she went from like just giving like extremely great advice. And I know, Harley, you felt like this as well. It's happened to me too, where we're like, I don't need to give advice right now. Like, I'm not where I want to be. I'm kind of a fraud. I had that so many times. And like when Gemma messaged me, just as good for everyone to hear how it works. You can be in a really good spot. And then Gemma left me a voice note, like total meltdown panic. And it's like the day before that wasn't there, and then it was there. And it just goes to show you like how quick the rug can be pulled out from underneath you. And I think that that's very important to cover, because
which I also want to, Gemma, because I mean, I'm curious to know from you as well. Like for me, some of the real events I was latching onto for years was like high school drama stuff. Like I was like, oh my God, that was so embarrassing. I'm not even like, do people still think I'm a bad person? But like, so what for you, what do you have an example of a real event or some some situation from the past where you were just like obsessed over?
Event. It kind of linked in a bit with moral scrupulosity, I would say. So for me, it was like lies I had told in the past. Like if I'd lied about something, I would just randomly remember that I told this like quite extravagant lie, and I would just feel devastated, and I'd be thinking, oh my God, does that person just think like really, really badly of me? And I would just get these like shame attacks, not in the way we speak about a shame attack, but I would get this shame attack where I would think of something and suddenly my whole body was on fire with how embarrassed I felt. And it was really silly things as well. I remember putting it in the group when I first started in the group and thinking, these guys are going to think I'm off my rocker. But it was things like, when I was dishing up me and my daughter's dinner, like, did I give myself a bit of food that looked better? Did I? And it was honestly, it was so silly. It was honestly things so small such as that, and I would just feel so guilty about it. And I just think I'm
Yeah.
a terrible person. I'm a terrible mother. You know, I was a horrible teenager, to be honest. I mean, I accept that. I accept that. You know, I was really, really difficult, and I was to my mum, and bless her, she did not deserve it. She's fantastic. And I spent years being so guilty about that. And, you know, the amount of times I've cried on her and apologized for it and said, you know, I don't even know why you love me when I treated you like that. And you know, she just looks at me and goes, it's fine, it's fine. But I mean, that's obviously reassurance. So really, that wasn't a good thing.
Yeah.
But she was so confused.
I still
Why?
I still haven't apologized to my parents, by the way. So for things I put them through, it's fine. Harley, what about you? Any like things that you felt shit about from your past? All right, since guys, something is wrong with my speaker, I'm going to speak like this. Harley, please continue.
Um, question again, sorry, Molly?
Oh, you froze as well, Harley.
Oh, wait, can you hear me?
You can hear
Can
you
you guys
now.
see me and hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Yeah.
Okay, what was your question, Molly?
Like, was there like an event from the past where your guilt and real event latched onto who you felt bad about it?
So yeah, it kind of ties in with what you were saying earlier about constantly apologizing to people and thinking, what does this person think of me? Am I a bad person? And it was when back in 2016, 2017 was when my false memory real event really latched, and like it just wasn't easing up or anything. And it latched onto a false memory of me hurting someone back in high school, for example, like leading them on. And even this, and for years after I what I did, and I didn't. Brain was telling it in a dark room, rocking back and forth over it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it got to the point where I had to meet up with this person and like really apologize to them and just literally just pour my heart out because I was just so guilty and I couldn't like live with myself without telling them how sorry I was. And I felt like that was the only way that I could move on from it. But even with all that confessing, I still didn't feel any relief. And it was just constantly still, even after I met up with them, I was still apologizing to them on Facebook and just messaging them constantly. I must have looked like a right nutcase. But
No, that's what I tell
We've all
people.
been there.
Exactly. That's what I tell people. Like, for example, if they have like sleeping OCD or false memory or whatever, and they're constantly confessing to their partner, they confess one time. Then they confess like 5 days later. Then after
Yeah.
2 weeks, they're like, okay, I need to talk about it. I'm like, you also have to, and because these things do take a toll on your relationships as well. I'm like, you also have to think about your partner. They probably want to move on from it, but you're also not letting them move on from that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I forgot I had to talk like this.
That's fair.
But anyway, guys. Okay. Sam, any event from the past where you were like, oh God, why did I do that?
Yeah, so like Harley said, it ties into constantly apologizing, and sort of nights out, or where you might have reacted angrily or said something that you probably wouldn't have said. I don't know, when you're sober, and then just constantly apologizing. What do you think of me? Are you sure? They say, look, don't worry about it, it's fine. And then you're asking, are you sure though? Because did I really say that? And it's just, it must be tiring for them and exhausting. And to my fiance Amy, confessing all the time. And when I say every night, I'm not even joking as well. It would be every night. And that would be a push as well, because sometimes it would be in the morning as well. So I had to just get off my chest because I felt like I couldn't get on with my day. I couldn't get on with my life without, or with this guilt. I had to get it all gone before I could live my life. So yeah, oh, wow, lots of confessing.
And Alexander, anything from your past? Do you have anything you want to tell?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Even besides my like false memory, I remember before I chronically attendance. Now I understand how much of them I had, constantly ruminating about what I said to those people. Maybe I shouldn't have said it and stuff like that. And I like the culture of apologizing. Like we actually don't have it a lot in like my country, but I was trying to like call them and meet with them just to check if they are okay with me, and like it was constant mental checking if like they are not mad at me, or if I didn't offend them somehow. So yeah, and it was a big problem for me. And like Rob says, I had a lot of these mental blocks even before OCD chronically latched, and now I can see it because I had this belief that like I love life so much, but I had the belief that in order to live it happily, I have to be like perfectly pure, because if I'm not, then I am not deserved to enjoy the life. So it was holding me back a lot. This belief that I must be pure, like yeah, almost like. Same person, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Right. I think so, because it's also ridiculous that I'm talking like this on the video. But I think we've had a good discussion on Real Event. I think we should maybe do a part 2 on Real Event as well for the next Real Talk, because I think there's a lot more that we can discuss on this as well. So and hopefully I won't be talking like this. But thank you guys so much for being here. I've got to run as well. But let's do a part 2 on this, and hopefully maybe Mark and Paul can also join us for the next call as well. All right. See you guys. Thank you all for joining. Alex, great to have you back on here after a long time. And yeah, have a good rest of the day, guys. See you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.